This is a video on curved wedding bands, very basic half ET wedding bands, whatever you want to call them. This is the original curve that the customer's created. This is a new ring rail that I've put in. I have changed these profiles to match this ring rail for a reason. So first thing I want to do is to show a very basic way of doing curved bands, which is probably my first port of call, and it's one of the first things that I teach in basic primary matrix. Now that twist there, that pinch, is a good thing to see. So what it means is one of the profiles in here, let's get rid of one of those, one of these profiles is pointing in the wrong direction. So if I go to curves and go to closed curve seam, swap that over, and then it pops, and what it means is that was copied from one side to the other, which is not a good idea. You should always use add and rotate it to the other side via the MSR of that. So here is the most excuse me, basic way of moving anything. Get hold of the X offset and move it the distance that you require, and then the history part takes over and creates a bend in the shank. Now I know that's not matching the original, so that method would not work. So let's delete that surface and let's try something else. Actually, let's just go back to there, then delete that surface, because I want that in the center. So another way is custom rail advanced. So that's another way. So your original curve, I'm going to go to transform and go project to C-plane, delete input, no. And that's put a copy of your curve on the flat there. That curve needs to be a little bit longer for me to use the tool I want to use, so I'm going to turn on control points. And I'm going to grab hold of that node on the end there, just pull it. Doesn't really matter about its length. So let's grab that, pull that over that way. Double escape to get out of that. Let's change the colour of that to red, just to keep myself sane. Let's go to this colour. So custom rail advanced to create a ring rail. Go to tools, custom rail advanced, click the curve on the flat and press enter, and what that does is it creates a custom rail for us. Press enter again, so that green curve that we've created, F6, sweep 1 history, and click your profiles and press enter. Now that gives more of the shape that I think you're looking for. Now it's still not conforming to the original, which I'll bring out in a moment. There's a bit of a dip and a twist there. So there is other ways we can do this. You can actually grab hold of the original curve, the one on the flat, and alter that. Now that has too many nodes to it for it to be easy to use. So I'm just going to go to curves and click rebuild. I'm going to rebuild that curve from 21 to 13. Click OK. So now when I turn on control points, there's less to move around. So let's just have a look at where we are. Let's see if we can correct it. You know, we might be barking up the wrong tree on this. We might not be able to correct it using this method, but this is all about matrix trial and error, and then moving on. So if I was to grab hold of that node and that node there with grid snaps off, just move it over a bit, and I've got a feeling this is probably not going to work for us. No, it's still not giving me the curvature that I'm after. I think I've made a boob, so let's come out of this a second. there's my glaringly obvious error. Profile, F6, MSR, select rail curve, keep location no, and it's this one over here, the green one. Okay, let's just ignore you a moment. So now when I sweep it, it should conform better. So profile, just making sure I'm grabbing the right ones and not your cutaway ones, and enter. That works better. The nice thing about this method is that curvature can be altered thereafter. So I can grab hold of, let's say, those 3 nodes there and just move those over a tad and create a larger kink. Control Z, let's just bring that back a moment. So that's Custom Rail Advanced. Now if you wanted to work with, let's just get rid of that green one. If you wanted to work in halves like you have, which is probably not how I would do it, but if you were going to do 2 colour, as in white at the top and yellow at the bottom, then yes, I would do it the way that you're doing it. And I'm presuming you used curve from 2 views with history and selected the flat and the ring rail, full equals false, enter, and that creates the same as what you did. Then that's, you know, fine, que sera, sera. Not my preferred method personally, but you know, we all have our own ways of doing things. So I'm going to show you another way that I'm pretty sure you will not be aware of. If I take the original curve and I'm going to offset it, now I need to offset it the width of your profile, and I don't know the width of your profile, so 2 secs. I'm just going to measure that. Go to measure, aligned dimension from there to there, and pull that out. So it's 3 millimeters. So I need to offset this curve. So I'm going to go back to curves and offset it, and we're going to go both sides, and we're going to do 1.5. and press enter. So now we've got an offset of that one either side. So this curve will make blue and this curve will make green, and then we're going to do something a little bit different. We'll use yours, curve from 2 views, and we'll click this one and this one, false, enter. Let's make these orange, so make that orange, and everything thereafter will be orange. And let's repeat that, curve from 2 views with history, this one, and the ring rail, enter. So now you've got these 2 ring rails as opposed just the one in the centre. Now the reason I've done that is I'm going to sweep it a slightly different way. With Rhino History on, go to Surface and click Sweep 2 as opposed to Sweep 2 with History. Click this curve, then this curve, then your profiles, and I'm going to use your cutaway one. No, I'm not. Let's come back to that. Let's click the solid one, there to there, and press enter. Make sure these arrows are all pointing in the same direction, and press enter. Now this comes up with a box you've maybe not seen before. Now in this context it is not as imperative to use sweep 2, but what it does is it makes it conform far better to these lines that I've created, and gives, I feel, a more pleasing sweep. The add slash is when the surface is not conforming. So let's say you're doing a wishbone, then you would use add slash because it finds it difficult to go around corners. So press enter and just have a look at that. Is it any better than the others? I don't know. I think you'd have to do both and compare them. Now, your stones, let's just change this to a metal layer. Let's go to shaded so we can see the ISO curves. I'm going to go to red, I'm going to go to curves, and I'm going to extract an ISO curve on this surface. Get the mid snap so you get the absolute dead center. Click that curve, F6, gem on curve. Now the QLED direction by default is F4, so QLED direction needs to be changed to object. The object is the ring, so that sorts that part out. The distance between the stones, unless you're doing a render model, should be no less than 0.1 of a mil. If you go any lower than that, your gem setter is going to kill you. I mean, if you have it girdle to girdle, it's really not a good idea. And that comes from goldsmiths, that doesn't come from me. That comes from gem setters. Another thing is, if you click mirror, it puts one of the position nodes in the center, which makes it easier in respect of moving this node around, because what happens is it fills in exactly the same place on the other. The only thing you've got to be careful of is the center stone has to be dead center. Now, to work that out is a bit of a Heath Robinson, because historically on Matrix it won't line up, it won't grab hold of a snap. So what I would suggest is, under view, let's just see the one that I want, preview shade. If you turn off preview shade and line up your QLED, or that facet there, that facet point with that yellow line, and then you know your dead center on there. Let's just turn that back off so I can see what's going on. I'm going to pull that stone right to the end, get it as close as I can to there. Spacing is at 0, which is what yours was, but may I say that, oops, you'd be a lot better off with a 0.1. Now for a render model that can look a bit gappy, the real thing wouldn't be. So let's just have a look. That's dipping over there ever so slightly, but I think we can live with that. The mathematics of the program is doing its best. So now the distance below the surface, there is a gem tops tool, and that puts it below the surface a recommended depth as per goldsmiths and the people who work for us who are goldsmiths. The distance below the surface is a good setting distance, and I'm not a gem setter, so who am I to argue? So I tend to leave that as is. So I'm just going to drop those there a moment. Now the channel cutter, now this is not a solid object yet, so if you can use the channel cutter the way that I use it, that would have to be cat planed. So it was a solid object. Then click your stones, F6, and click channel builder. Now because this is going off, right off the end, and you're going to have a bottom shank, what I would do is just change the extension so it goes beyond, so it cuts all the way through. Now I think the profile of the cut that you wanted was flat, so just change the cutter so it's flat, and then to preview it, make sure Boolean is on, click surface, and click the surface you are cutting, and then that will give you a live Boolean of what's going to happen, and then you can make a call on whether that is too deep or you want the stones less. And at this point you could go to the side where the handles are, and let's for argument's sake you said that the height was not quite as you wanted it. You could bring that node up. Let's take it down a little bit further to about there, and then when you're happy with that you press enter, and that completes the cut. So that is cut and ready to go. The bottom of the shank would just be a separate sweep. So you've got that there. So let's just turn this off a moment, turn the stones off, and you'll notice that that isn't solid. So that needs making solid. Bring the top one back, and depending on whether you wanted it to colour, now there's a chance that that might fail as a boolean. No, it didn't. That's good. So now we've got a solid ring. Let's just bring the stones back, and last but not least would be the back holes. F6, gem cutter, and if you just wanted straight round holes, you would stay on gem. This won't disengage until you pick one. I always pick this one, green button. So now we've got back holes coming through. Now if you just want round, just leave it as is. If you want to change the shape, you click gem, so it says azure. Now for some ridiculous reason it comes up with a helmet shape. Obviously that needs to change, and I would personally delete that. So let's go for a pretty generic azure. So we'll go for azure. One word on this, the cutter has two profiles, one at the back and one at the one at the back here and one here. I would suggest changing both cutters to the same, so they're both azure. At this point you can extend the taper, so this hole is bigger, so you can extend it this way and this way to cut away more metal. I'm not going to do that today. And what this will do is also create seats in the side of here for your gem setter. Some gem setters like it, some don't. Now the interactive boolean on this, depending on the speed of your machine, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I personally don't use it, but I'm going to try it today. So I'm going to click on, and then I'm going to click surface and click the surface that I'm cutting. And this is a typical situation where the whole thing disappears temporarily, but it does show me what that cut is going to look like. One word on that, when you press enter it fails to do it, so you have to go back to your traditional boolean tools. I use these Rhino booleans, which are a lot quicker. If I click boolean difference, select surface or polysurface to subtract from, so that's the ring. Press enter when done. Press enter, and delete input is yes, and select the subtract with, which is these. That's a grouped object, so you have to click one and press enter, and then wait, and wait, and wait, and that failed. So we have to go back to old school boolean, our boolean. Now this might bite me because I joined this shank to this shank, and sometimes it's like playing chess with Rhino and Matrix, and it's working out the combination. So I'm going to go one by one, force boolean, do boolean. And what the force boolean done is like sticking a gun to its head and saying you will do as I tell you to do, and you'll do it now. So that's working through this boolean. 2 secs. Sorry, phone rang. And that's worked. But whenever you do a force boolean, please test the model just to make sure that it is still tickety-boo, and it is. The shell and the naked edges are not highlighting. If I turn the stones off on this, you've now got nice seats all down the sides, nice back holes. There's a seat there, seat there, seat there. And if you have this grown, everything of this detail would come out. If it was to be milled, the back holes would be got, but these side bits would not. Anyway, I hope that has helped. There's quite a lot in there, but this is an example of the kind of videos that we do for customers. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.